Peace, power, and prosperity. Peace, power, and prosperity. It's your comrade, your brother, Yafeuh Balogun, uh, back yet again to have a additional conversation about history, which we think is very important. I think the thing that's important to me the most is I like to talk about things that are not really talked about, or not really known, or not really shared. And I know that unless I talk about it here, this is some information that wouldn't be known or anything of that nature. So just to kind of put it in context, I have represented an organization called Gorilla Mainframe. That is something that you're going to hear as a common theme as I discuss my and my comrades' history. We do this just so we can kind of explain, at least from our perspective, on exactly what occurred, historically speaking. But I know if I didn't have this conversation, if we didn't talk about it, it's something that we it wouldn't be known. And so I attempt to try to go into how the Huey P. Newton Gun Club got its name. Just a little bit of background information. Uh, GMF Gorilla Mainframe um, had done its best to essentially respect the elders. And when I mean the elders, I'm talking about the previous generation of organizers, SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee here locally. Uh, Ernest Macmillan was the leader of that group. Um, the Black Panther Party, which was headed by Fahim Minka and others um, that were a part of the National Committee to Combat Fascism prior to Mr. Minka getting engaged in 1973. We had attempted to have some sort of relationship and respect for those comrades that came before us. Marilyn Clark, who's part of SNCC, very great activist and future politician, local politician, Diane Ragsdale. Folks like that, we attempted to try to have a relationship with because they had a track record. And having a track record is very important because it allows someone to kind of look and inspect and see what's done, but it also brings value to the movement, so to speak. So we'll know what and why we're doing from a historical perspective. So that's kind of the background, at least from a GMF Gorilla Mainframe perspective, on what we were dealing with prior to 2014. And then going into 2014, as I mentioned prior, basically organizing the first maneuver 3 months before, or at least putting it out. Key person in this conversation, two key people, at least for me, in organizing the event. Again, I basically kind of had a conversation and put the call out uh, with some folks, and um, obviously I called Babu Omawali, told him and Rakim Balogun, and advised him and put the call out 3 months in advance. So it was organizing way back in May of 2014, not knowing that what would happen occurred with Mike Brown. Just want to make that clear. Mike Brown occurred August 9, 2014. We had no idea that that was going to occur way back in May. Um, but in organizing, if you haven't learned it by now, a lot of times organizing, it's about timing. It's about being on time, um, kind of with the emotion of the people of the community. I think That's why you got so many ambulance chasers. You know, for the record, I never chased the ambulance. I didn't never really like working with families of police brutality victims because it was something that was very hard thing. So during my time with the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, which was 2014 to 2016, we never chased any ambulances because I wasn't into chasing ambulances. I was more into doing preemptive work in the community and work that we were already engaged with prior to the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. I just want to make that clear because I see after I left along with Rakim Balogun that there was some folks just going around and doing different things that really wasn't necessarily what the objective was from the start. I just put it that way, a nice way. Um, no pun intended. Uh, but as of August 19th, 2014, which was a day prior to our first maneuver, we didn't even have a name of the group. We didn't know what we was gonna be. That's the funny thing. That was the funny thing. We didn't even have a name. Um, for the most part, it was guerrilla mainframe and various Panther uh, formations. That's basically what it was. Guerrilla mainframe and various Panther formations, new Panther formations, I should put it that way. That's basically what it was. Some key people in that was Babu Omawale, and a few other folks. Anthony Fisher, Zulu. He got some respect here, although he's more older now, of course. But folks like that, that was key. But um, me and Babu Omawale more so agreed on the name, the UP New Gun Club. But my comrades within Guerrilla Mainframe, we also wanted the addition, or they kind of saw that they wanted to put George Jackson in there. So, um, so in essence, it almost became the Huey P. and George Jackson Gun Club. That's what it almost became. It almost became the Huey P. Newton and the George Jackson Gun Club. And that was something that I think Eric had talked about, Eric Caffrey had talked about, and I know definitely Kamal Ozane. I mean, we was literally at my back room, me and Kamal Ozane. He was at my house at the time when I lived on Oberlin Road in Dallas, and he was sitting right there when we was having a conversation over the phone, me and Umawale, and he was sitting right there next to me. He was like, "Nah, we got to put George Jackson in there. We got to put George Jackson." I thought Huey was good in context because it respected the original party. That's what I thought. I mean, you know, um, I've always been big on respect of the original party, more so than anything else, in my opinion. Um, not being humble about that, but that's just facts. I've always been big on that, and that's kind of been sort of my motivation in a lot of times of getting involved and engaged in things was because I like to show respect to the elders, and conveniently, I think that's what should be done as youth. And oftentimes in these movements, that's what's missed. There's no respect of the elders. Some folks say that the elders don't necessarily reach out to the youth. Some folks say that, and that's probably some truth to that. But um, there still need to be some effort. I know my comrades put effort in and connecting with folks and having conversations to more or less have some understanding and some appreciation and some mutual respect. So that's basically how that essentially came to be. So that's my part in agreeing with Huey because I felt it put some respect on the elders and it allowed us to exalt the elders. Now, in African traditional systems, and I'm talking about spirituality, it's all about ancestral worship and ancestral, I should say, worship, ancestral veneration, I should say. That's, kind of what ATR is all about, more so. And so it was in that spirit that I was like, yes, let's go with Huey. I didn't know that all these different groups later on would kind of come about and try to duplicate or do the same thing that we did. And basically, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club inspired all these different other groups that uh, so-called, gun clubs or whatever, inspired them to uh, do what they do. And that was basically kind of what we were shooting for, to be honest, as far as getting other folks, particularly African Americans, Black folks, or however you identify yourself, um, to get engaged in that process as far as open carry, as far as training, as far as being able to defend yourself. Now, the key thing I think, which has been missing, and partly because I think folks like myself sort of stepped away from the movement in 2016, was the political education part. I think that's greatly missing. So you just got different folks running out around with just gun training and shooting guns, and that's cool and that's nice. But um, I think it was Thomas Sankara that said that you know you can you can give a person a weapon and they'll become a criminal, so to speak. And so that's why political education is key. You got some folks that are engaged in the movement that are not necessarily revolutionary, and I think that that's part of the missing piece. Um, my part in creating this was not necessarily to get guys that supported the Second Amendment just to be engaged and have something to be involved in and be around a bunch of black folks. That wasn't what necessarily what my shoot was. But of course, things happen, and over time, things develop differently than what they was intended to. As I stated and I mentioned, that I never ever thought that you know that it was something that would exist ongoing. I more or less thought maybe one or two things, and that would be it. Because well, the mainframe was more or less focused on its own platforms and things that we were doing in the community. That's what GMF was focused on. Wasn't necessarily looking to be in coalition with any other groups. We had already had our thing going, and we was well established um, far as our leadership with Chairman Eric and Rakim Balogun for the most part in leadership positions, and folks like Rain Efi and Amalo Zane, folks like that were in leadership position and also spheres of influence within our cadre of people or comrades, I should say. And that was our thing, and it all sort of kind of changed a bit, at least from August 20th, 2014, going up to April 2nd, 2016, which is the day that we ran Bear out of South Dallas. It sort of changed from that at that time. But yeah, so that's how the Huey P. Newton Gun Club got its name. It was agreed upon. I liked it, and I gave the reason I liked it because I thought it venerated Huey and it put a light on Huey. And plus, at that time, it wasn't in the groups that it was named after. Now, of course, I've gotten some criticism over the years for shining light on a number of different things, and that criticism sort of is well received. I think criticism is good. But at the time that I was engaged, um, I think it was a proper thing from 2014 until we kind of bagged away a little bit. But that's kind of how it got its name. I think it's important to know that it didn't have a name until the previous day before we was actually supposed to meet up in South Dallas at 12 o'clock. That's what time we met up. And we walked down MLK, went to Elaine's, and then went down to Malcolm X. Now, Babu created the route, which I think was a good thing because I probably would have never thought to go down to MLK. Definitely to Elaine's. We went inside Elaine's because uh, other folks was going inside Chipotle downtown Dallas, so they was going inside Chipotle, and we was kind of wanting to do the same for black business. So salute to Elaine's Kitchen, who was receptive of us and allowed us to walk into their building or take a break, if you will, once at their location, because we definitely did that. Elaine, I think, passed away earlier this year, but and if you're ever in Dallas, you need to go to Elaine's. Elaine's has some good Caribbean food. That's what I'm saying. She was from Jamaica, but the restaurant is still open. You can go in and get some food and uh, have a great time, I think. But that's more so how the gun club got its name. It wasn't nothing that was pre-thought out a plan. It was just basically getting groups together because our groups already had names. It was already affiliated. We was already had our own experiences and legacies. Um, we had already aligned ourselves with certain ideas, and what connected it was Huey. On the other end, I'm sure that they were willing to do it because of Huey being affiliated with like a Panther type movement or Panthers. Uh, we were kind of into it because we was kind of with it because of the veneration of Huey and also the ideology of Huey. Huey was a little different than others, and so if you understand the history of the city of Dallas, in the city of Dallas, within the Black Panther Party movement in Dallas, there was you had factions, different factions within the party, within the formation. You had one faction that aligned itself kind of sort of with Eldridge Cleaver, and that faction turned out to be informants, or at least one particular, Curtis Gaines, turned out to sort of be an informant, and the other faction, which turned out to be the dominant group for which we kind of align ourselves with, worked very closely with Huey P. Newton. And so oftentimes the information that we would receive in conversations, or at least I could say I could receive the conversation, was very much so in line with Huey P. Newton. So of course, when granted or given this opportunity to kind of create a new platform, a new foundation, when discussed, it was agreed because very much so because of this conversation with the elders that had been taken. Not that they granted or they gave us authorization to do that. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Um, because we definitely didn't necessarily have a conversation with the elders beforehand, or at least I didn't beforehand, and say, "Hey, we're going to do this." But we did have conversations with them under the banner of Gorilla Mainframe many different times. So, but that's how the Huey P. Newton Gun Club got its name. That's how it became a thing, so to speak. And like I said, it wasn't nothing that's planned. It was nothing that folks thought about any in depth. It wasn't any in depth strategy. Uh, no It was just because we were already familiar with what we were gonna do. But we were already familiar with the area. Like if you from Dallas, then you know like what South Dallas is. You know about South Dallas if you're from Dallas. And you know, and at that time, Gorilla Mainframe had been around at least 6 years at that time. Um, so we had already kind of knew what was going on. But anyhow, again, this has been your comrade, your brother, Yafeuh Balogun, street reporter. We're gonna have some street reporting things going on, and I think the important part about this channel is I'm gonna actually show legitimate work that we're doing in the community. In the process of me talking about history, in process of uh, bringing other folks on that have experiences that could educate the broader masses. That's kind of what this channel is about. If you're wondering, it's about talking about the history and more or less doing the work, allowing you to engage with us in that process as we develop to a higher level of understanding and consciousness, and also having conversations about spirituality because I think that's important. I think once we see ourselves as a high level in a position of deity almost, or see us as a reflection of God, then we'll have more unity as a people. I think that's a fair statement. I think that's a fair statement. But if you do me a big favor, like, share, subscribe. Um, because we're going, you're not just gonna hear me just sit up here and talk and have conversation. You're gonna see us do. So, but anyway, again, it's been your comrade, your brother Yafeuh Balogun. Appreciate you, street reporter. Hey, if you want to donate, $ CMB Dallas. That's on Cash App. $CMB Dallas, like the city. Peace, power, and prosperity.